Hey everybody, welcome back to JOECMDRAWZ. Today I've designed some more devil fruits. So if you like devil fruits in One Piece, you'll really like this video. So sit back, relax and enjoy 3 more unique devil fruits that I've designed. So as previously with the other devil fruits that I've designed, I want to design 3 new ones that I would actually want to use in the world of One Piece. So the first one I've designed here is a mirror fruit, or the Nomi. We'll get to the namesake in a little bit. But these are just some unique, like interesting initial sketches that they wanted to do. Try out with a lot of experimentation. One that's like a stained glass window, which is like this one, or this one where it's got like an outer shell, or this one where it's more like a raspberry. And all each of these ones would have the swirl, and then maybe they were like individual mirrors that were bouncing light off, which is really cool. If you can imagine that, or another one that's another berry one that's like an avocado, one that's more like an apple or pentagony apple shape with stuff on the inside. And I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of cool. But the stalk really isn't interesting, and there's nothing else for you to like look at as a design. Then I came to this one, was like, oh, maybe like there's this skin on the outside that has like the fruit actually peeking out from from holes in the skin, and you can see the devil fruit swirls. But I was like, oh, it's just kind of like a boring shape. No one's really gonna want to look at that and go, yeah, that's like a cool design. And then I came to this one. I was like, okay, that's kind of like a lopsided shape. It's got a really cool like stalk on the top with a leaf for a little bit of accent. You got these little bits that are breaking off from the outside, and it's got this skin on the outside. And what we're looking at is actually the devil fruit actually on the inside. So you'd have to like peel back or like peel open the skin, so like maybe on oranges, or peel back like bananas to actually eat the fruit that's on the inside, which is cool. And you've got like the swirls that are actually the fruit on the inside, which led me to this one, which is like, oh, that's really cool, but it looks a bit too thin. So I'll just like extend it or widen it, and that came me to this final sketch here, which is interesting. Not only do you have all the details on the outside mirrored, but on the inside as well. So like these top ones, these ones, and then these ones are all mirrored, which are really interesting. I like how all the elements are kind of like fittingly mirrored for the actual fruit itself. So I did those sketches, which led me to try some inking, which came to these 2 designs. And I couldn't really decide like what kind of color scheme I really liked, whether I liked a like orange fruit on the inside and then kind of like a green exterior. But I thought it was a bit too bland as it was too green. You've got like this green like leafy outer shell, and then you've got this stuff that you could actually eat from the inside that isn't the fruit itself, which is actually like this like flesh, I guess you could say, like you'd find in a coconut. You could eat that, and then you've got the actual devil fruit that's inside that. So it's kind of like a concealed devil fruit. You have to really know where you're looking um, at to actually find it, which is really cool. And I like it. It's okay. I came to this one where it's a little bit more desaturated, which is kind of interesting, more purpley, pinky, reddish tones here. Still kind of very monochromatic though. Um, I don't know whether I really like it. It's still got, it's interesting, but I think I could get a much better um, color scheme out of it. But I do still think it's important to kind of look back on these and go, well, were interesting, but I know I can do something better. So I opted for this one, which is my favorite one. Not only does its exterior look a little bit more mirror and glossy like, which I really like, but it's got a little bit better of a color palette. It's got little bits of color on the outside, so this would still function like leaves, where you could still peel it back, but it looks like a mirror surface. And I imagine that if you found this fruit, you'd be able to instantly tell what it was, which is really cool, as it would be reflecting all sorts of stuff in it, kind of like a polished ball, which is really nice. And obviously, you've still got the flesh of the inside here that you can actually eat, and then the actual devil fruit on the inside, which is nice. And I've got like a shine or a sparkle here, like on these almost metallic-looking leaves. But why don't I get into the actual fruit itself? So it's called the Nomi, or the mirror fruit. Now, the namesake for this fruit, Kagami, comes from the Japanese word for mirror, which is obviously, like I said, Kagami. It's a paramecia type devil fruit, which allows the user to control and manipulate mirrors and mirror-like surfaces. So that's really cool. So that's like working with reflections, reflective surfaces, and illusions. This would allow the user to project reflective illusions, make people believe that they're seeing one thing, but really another thing. What's the best ability this fruit gives you is that you're able to actually create copies of objects or people from the mirrors or reflective like surfaces. What you can also do is you can actually take their actual reflection from wherever it's being reflected and bring it into reality, whether that's being reflected on the surface of like water, in mirrors, in people's eyeballs, in their weapons. So it's a really versatile thing that you can actually do, except if the surface that you're using the ability on that's like reflecting them or the objects or whatever, if it's broken or shattered, then you're no longer able to use it, which is really cool. It can use to be reflect attacks. So if somebody starts shooting like attacks at you, you can actually reflect that attack back at them. So say somebody pulls a gun at you and they fire, you could basically just show them their own reflection, which would just copy them, and they would fire their own bullet back at them, which is really interesting and really unique. But you'd have to like plan around that. Um, what this fruit's main cool thing about that it can do is it can counteract the Pika Pika no Mi, which is the light fruit, I guess. Um, by it will be able to reflect the light because you're basically made of a mirror. You can basically just reflect the light back at him, and he wouldn't really be able to do anything with his major or main attacks. You could also refract the light, which would just basically just bounce off you or bounce like away from you, basically negating all of the attacks, which is interesting. This also really is useful for refracting water attacks and sound. So maybe Fishman Karate that I know that they use for like water attacks can just be refracted off of you. As like sound-based attacks can just be refracted away, which is really nice. Common weakness for this fruit, I guess, includes if the object, like I said, or surface is broken, then the effect will stop, or if the user is unconscious or dead, then the ability will stop. But other than that, and obviously all the other common devil fruit weaknesses, but what's really cool is when it gets to an awakened state. Now, obviously, certain people in the actual devil fruit, like devil fruit stuff, will be able to do awakening. But if obviously this is fantasy and this is made up, so we can do whatever you want. So let's say you get the fruit and you awaken it. Well, then upon devil fruit awakening, the user can manipulate the environment around them, turning any object into a reflective surface. So that doesn't matter what it is, even if it's a completely different material. It doesn't even have to be like a physical like solid object. It can be water, and you can turn that, even if it's like a murky water, you can turn that into a reflective surface, which then you can use that in conjunction with your other abilities that you get from eating the fruit, um, which would be really cool. And you could use it with them, so you could potentially make infinite copies of people or objects and just keep bringing them out of this environment that's completely turned reflective. So either you kill the user, which is going to be really difficult at that point because they can just keep bringing reflections of you or other people or even themselves out from these reflective surfaces and then keep attacking. Obviously, if they take too much damage, just like any other kind of clone ability to make it, stop it from being too overpowered, they will actually explode into like a shattering effect. But you could just keep making more. Um, but yeah, that's the mirror fruit, which I think is a really cool devil fruit. So if you like this one, let me know in the comments. I'd appreciate that. So that's the mirror fruit. I also really like the color scheme. It's subtle, but I like it. But yeah, that's that one. Let's move on to the next one. Hey, okay, so next fruit is called the Surusuru Nomi, or the creation fruit. The namesake comes from suru, or sakse suru, which means creation or to create, which is really interesting. You could also call this the splice fruit, which we'll get into when I explain its abilities. But it allows the user to control, manipulate, and utilize DNA freely. So working with that um, theme of DNA, I came to these kind of like initial sketches and designs like, oh well, I want to work with the shape of the double helix. Do I want all the swirls in here? This one is like, it's kind of meh. This one's a little bit better. This one's kind of similar to that one, except it's got a different shape. It's got some different stuff on the inside. Came to some of these ones, trying to get a little bit weirder with it. We've got like these little roots that are coming out. Then this one looks more like a vegetable. This one is more of like a berry one again, working with that theme of DNA and the double helix. And I was like, it's kind of meh. And then this one looks pretty cool, more of a vase shape with the top of the stalk being a double helix, which is nice. Then it came to these ones over here, if I just zoom in. They've got like a really nice shape, like this stalk is obviously in the double helix thing, but it's not super obvious. And I thought that was really interesting. It's got like limited swirls on there, so you've got something to visually look at. It's got a nice shape. These two are very similar. One's a little bit more squashed. Another one's a little bit more regular. And then it came to this one, which is like a combination of both of them. And I really like that one. I think it just looks pretty cool. So I was like, okay, I've got to try and ink this. If I just get rid of this one here. Here we go. This is the final one. I think it's really cool looking. It's got some nice visual color got on there. It's got some nice swirl patterns. Got like little bits in here for texture, which is nice. And then obviously the main theme of the DNA or the double helix is really represented here, which really shows you, oh, well, this is what this type of fruit does, right? So main abilities of the Surusuru Nomi, or you could also call it the splice fruit if you really wanted to. Like I said, it allows you to control, manipulate, and utilize DNA freely. So you could basically splice your DNA or anyone else's DNA with another bit of DNA. So if you had some bird DNA and you wanted to fly, you'd be able to take any part of the DNA from a flying creature, and you'd be able to use the power of this devil fruit to give yourself hollow bones and the ability to, or the natural ability to produce feathers, and then you'll be able to fly with wings, which is really interesting. But I think it would only allow you to splice one bit of DNA into yourself or anyone else at any one time. But that's pretty limiting. But if you know what you're looking for and if you have it, then it could be pretty overpowered. You're able to change the DNA of all living creatures, but not inanimate objects. So it's only working on living creatures. You can splice two DNA from two different creatures into one to make more, or you can just do it on yourself or of your teammates or anyone else to give them natural abilities like durable skin or another natural ability. But you will not be able to pass down abilities from devil fruits, which is interesting, obviously, because, well, that would just make it completely broken. The drawback is you actually need the actual DNA of whatever you want to splice. So like I said, if you want to fly, you need some sort of bird DNA, or if you want to have 100 times better smell, you would need some dog DNA, stuff like that. You can take any natural trait of a creature and splice it into yourself or other people or other creatures, which is really, really useful. It can also be used to remove genetic defects or problems. So somebody that might have like a genetic defect might actually want to have the splice fruit just so they can get rid of whatever genetic problem they have, and then splice something else from another species or creature or another like race of person or whatever into themselves to make them even better. So if you wanted to have the giant sides of the giant race in One Piece or the long arms of the long arm tribe, you would just need a little bit of their DNA, and you could use the fruit's power to splice it into yourself to gain their natural advantages, which is really useful. You can remove the effects anytime you want, which is really interesting. Obviously, natural weaknesses include if you get knocked out, then the effects will be gone, or Sea Prism Stone, or obviously the ability to not swim. Now, awakening this fruit will allow the user to actually splice DNA with inanimate objects now, which is a really huge advantage, but obviously very limited amount of people can actually awaken devil fruits. We've only seen it done very few times. I think Don Flamingo is the only one that's been able to actually awaken his fruit, apart from Katakuri, I think. I'm not sure. You have to let me know on that one. But after being that, you basically be able to alter the molecular structure of inanimate objects now. So it's a massive upgrade previously, but you need to be really skilled with this. You can splice DNA into inanimate objects, so the floor or the ground, you could just splice that with, let's say, scales or feathers to make it. You could completely change the battlefield. And because you can use your abilities one per person, if there's a huge army, you can just give them all different natural traits from other races and other creatures, which would be amazing. It doesn't even matter if the creature or subject or specimen is actually dead. You can actually take their DNA and then use that, which is really useful. Like I said, the massive drawback of this fruit is you actually need the DNA to actually use the fruit. Kind of almost like how Wapo needs to eat stuff to actually use his devil fruit. So you'd actually need the DNA to actually use it. But it's really, really useful, and I think it'd be really cool to take or remove or add stuff to people or creatures or races, which could actually give a massive benefit. Like you could make all of your members, if you have enough bird DNA, you could just have them be able to fly naturally without having to use a devil fruit to actually do that. And obviously, in the world of One Piece, flying is a really limited ability. So you could do that as well as taking natural defenses and natural abilities from other creatures around the world to do that, which is really cool. And this also includes plants as well. So you could take DNA from them and include it into yourself, and then you'd gain their unique traits and abilities as well, because it's all just DNA, which is interesting. And obviously, it's One Piece, you can do whatever you want. But yep, that's the splice fruit, which I think is really cool. So let me know what you think of that one, and yep, let's move on to the next one. And finally, we come to the last devil fruit that we've got that I've designed today, the Choco Nomi, or the chocolate fruit. So let's get into this. So here are some initial sketches I was doing for the Choco Nomi, like I said, the chocolate fruit. Maybe thinking outside the box, like is it like in a cupcake tin, or is it like a normal chocolate Belgian sweet, or is it a truffle, or is it a bonbon, stuff like that. I just want to experiment a little bit. This one's really cool. It's got like a stalk that's supposed to be like representative of a cake serving trowel, but I don't actually really know what they're called. You'll have to let me know in the comments. But I think these are really interesting. They've got a lot of visual details on here, and I tried to really think outside the box, but eventually I came to a final design. And we have this one, which I think looks really cool. It's really aesthetically pleasing to look at. I really like it, the way it looks. You got the leaves here that look really cool. You got the actual main chocolate fruit here with the devil fruit swirls, and then you got this like nice cool stalk here with the leaf on there. Everything actually in the devil fruit is edible. Obviously, it will taste awful like all the rest of them initially, but afterwards it should be fine. Um, so let's get into this devil fruit's abilities. So the namesake obviously comes from choco or chocolate, which is pretty self-explanatory. This gives you the ability to manipulate, create, control chocolate, becoming a chocolate human. You could use this to create chocolate weapons, either mold it into the shape of people to use it for decoys, replicate coins, keys, anything you really can think of. It's all based on your own creativity. If you're starving or whatever, you could actually use it as a source of food, and that works really well for another ability of this devil fruit that gives you is the immunity from the immunity from a sickness from eating too much chocolate. So normally, if you eat a lot of chocolate, you become very sick, right? Well, this devil fruit allow you to actually um, not become sick. So you could eat as much sweet foods, sweet cakes, treats, chocolate as much as you wanted, and you would never get sick, which is really cool. Because a lot of kids would want that, wouldn't they? To be interested by that, or anybody would like, well, I like eating chocolate without any kind of the drawbacks, which is interesting. If you're actually particularly skilled enough, you can have the ability to melt and harden the chocolate instantly if you're skilled enough, which is really, really cool. Um, so that could be used as like defensively or attacking. So you could kind of like create these like chocolate spikes in your arm that are all like melted at the moment, but then you can harden them as like a spikes, stuff like that. You can manipulate the shape, size, all that kind of cool stuff. You can make it solid chocolate, or you can make it so it can shatter, stuff like that. You could also create like vats of chocolate to trap and like suffocate people. I imagine this fruit would be kind of sought out by Big Mom you know, because she's all about cakes, sweets, and treats and stuff like that. If limbs are lost or like amputated or whatever, they can actually be recreated using the chocolate. You just need to use the power, create the actual form of your arm or whatever limb, and then you'll be able to harden it to make a hardened chocolate. You probably need to use a couple of layers to just kind of like make sure it doesn't melt in the sun, but I think that'd be really useful. You can make like a layer of like armor for defense, so you know how in Naruto, where Gaara has like the layer of sand over his body, where you'll be able to use that and make like a few layers of chocolate actually. So even if you get hit really hard, only a layer of chocolate would just be crumbling, which is interesting. You could also use it to feed other people. Uh, uh, Another cool detail about this fruit is that whatever you ate, that would be incorporated into the chocolate that day. So if you ate nuts and berries, you'd be able to produce chocolate that actually has nuts and berries in it, which is really cool. I like that. Obviously, normal weaknesses include the normal devil fruit weaknesses, but other stuff like you're weak to high temperatures and fire, so you'll be able to be melted pretty easily. And obviously, going out in the sun is a bad time unless you like really dedicate a lot of time to reinforcing it with maybe some haki or something. Another really big drawback is that you could actually be eaten because you can make yourself out of chocolate. Animals or other people could just eat you. You know, that's kind of scary. But moving on to awakening, awakening allows the user to turn the environment around them into chocolate and then manipulate the size and shape of that chocolate however they please. So turning the whole room into like basically like a chocolate candied house, and then you'd be able to just like make spikes or whatever you wanted in there to really get them, which I think is really cool. But that's just standard kind of like paramecia type awakening as we've seen before. But yeah, let me know what you think of the Choco no Mi. So I'll just show the final ones here. So that's the Choco no Mi, the Surusuru Nomi or the creation fruit, and let's see, oh, not that one, not that one, there we go, the mirror fruit. Let me know which one of these devil fruits you would want to have. Either the mirror fruit, the Choco Nomi, or the DNA, the power of the DNA splicing fruit, the Surusuru Nomi. Well, yeah, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. As always, subscribe, like, share, comment, all that good stuff. And I'll see you next time. Bye. Hey there, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share my work around. I'll see you next time.